Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for Family Council's Ontario final event of 2025, Citizenship and Wellbeing in Long-Term Care, co-hosted by CARP Ottawa. My name is Taeyang Jang, and I'm the bilingual events manager at FCO. Before we start, I would like to take a moment to recognize the land on which we are gathered today. I am currently in Toronto, which is sitting on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Before I turn things over to our co-host Carol from CARP to introduce our guest speakers, I wanted to share a few logistics and housekeeping rules. If you have attended our events before, this is nothing new to you, but if it is your first time, welcome. You'll notice that everybody is in lesson-only mode right now, so there will be reserved time at the end of the presentation for an interactive question and answer period. Margaret from CARP will come on and facilitate that period, and you're welcome to ask your questions in the Q&A box for that Q&A period. You're also welcome to use the Q&A box all throughout the presentation, and we'll get to the questions at the end. There is also a chat feature if you just want to have a discussion, if you want to share your opinions, your reactions, you can absolutely do so in the chat. I will be monitoring it. And if you also if you have any questions, more like logistics or technical for Family Councils Ontario, I'll be happy to answer it in the chat. I also would like to pull up this quick poll, just for us to know who our audience is, where you were coming from, how you heard about this webinar. So if you could take a second to answer the poll. I just launched it, so thank you so much for answering it. And yeah, as you may have noticed, this webinar is being recorded. So we try to record all of our sessions so you can view it again or share it with somebody who wasn't able to be present today. So it will be available on Family Council's Ontario YouTube channel next week. So I will still keep the poll up for maybe like a minute. In the meantime, I would like to pass the mic to my co-host Carol to present our guest speakers.
Thanks, Taeyang. It's really good to hear our friends down from the Maritimes. It's interesting to watch how innovative models are going across Canada, and everybody has their own version of it, and they're bringing their success rates that they can share with all of us to see what's available out there. So it is really good that we're looking at what's happening down in Nova Scotia, and different models are available. You can see them on Change Long-Term Care now. There's a variety of them there that you can look at, and then shortly you'll be able to hear from the success that they've had down in Nova Scotia. Réanne Evans is a neighborhood manager and a person-directed care lead at Tideview Terrace in Digby, Nova Scotia. They have excellent seafood down there. She brings a rich background in recreation from both municipal and education sectors, ultimately discovering her true passion in long-term care in her current role, which we're glad that that happened. Leanna's leading Tideview Terrace with its Eden alternative journey, challenging traditional institutional models that we've all heard about and are trying to get away from. But she's championing the culture where the residents are empowered to live meaningful and self-directed lives. A strong advocate for innovation and transformation, Réanne embraces the change and is dedicated to fostering a vibrant community where every individual is recognized as value and contributing citizen. Gee, I wonder if I can put my application in when I need to. Debra is an occupational therapist. She's a certified executive and leadership coach, a Pro-C change manager, a practitioner. She holds a green belt in the Lean Six Sigma group. and is an international Eden alternative mentor of person-directed cultural change. She's worked in acute care, continuing care, government, currently in long-term care, which is what we are all interested in, and she's the CEO at Tidewell Terrace in Digby, Nova Scotia. They first registered the Eden Alternative in the Atlantic Canada area, so they're a leader in their area. Debra's interest in person-directed care and citizenship started 25 years ago as a clinician working in dementia care. When she returned to long-term care, she was excited to discover the potential for change in the philosophy of care and was quick to bring this cultural change to her organization. Debra has led building of a new facility and introduction of cross-functional team managed for the model of care changes that are needed. It is delighted to share her experience with us. She's also a board member of the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia and a chair with the Annapolis Basin Developmental Society. So she has a long, rich label that she can help all of us learn. Ariel Rice is a neighborhood manager and an enrichment lead at Tideview Terrace in Digby, Nova Scotia. She's a certified therapeutic recreation therapist and a valuable member of the TVT family for over 10 years. So this team has worked together for a while. Her role involves supporting the interdisciplinary team, fostering community connections, and encouraging families to become an active participant in the TVT community. Ariel is passionate about new ideas and innovative approaches, and she deeply values the meaningful human connections and intergenerational relationships. We're all anxious to hear what you have to say, and I'm going to turn it over to Réanne as she can lead us through, and then all three of them will answer questions later when you have it. Go ahead, Réanne. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. I appreciate that introduction. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. There we go. So yeah, today we'll be talking about how we at Tideview we're evolving from person-directed care to citizenship in long-term care. Before we get started, we would also like to do our land acknowledgement. So Tideview Terrace acknowledges that we live, work, and learn on Mi'kma'ki, the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We recognize the deep history of the Mi'kmaq as the caretakers of this land, and that this territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship that remain effective today. Tideview Terrace commits to being a steward by doing its part to honor and protect the land, water, and all that grows and coexists with it. Tideview Terrace acknowledges the Eurocentric history of healthcare, and practicing only from this standpoint causes harm. We are open to adapting and adopting traditional practices and ways of caring that are outside of the Eurocentric healthcare practices. We commit to truth, reconciliation, and unlearning colonial mindsets and practices by growing our knowledge and adapting the ways of working in long-term care. We are all treaty people. So who are we? As we discussed in the introduction, my name is Réanne Evans. I'm a neighborhood manager here at Tideview Terrace. My colleagues Debra and Ariel will be joining me for the Q&A after the presentation. So Tideview Terrace is located in Digby, Nova Scotia. So that is a small fishing village in the southwest region of the province. We're home to 89 permanent residents, and we have one respite bed, so 90 total. We opened in 1973, and we moved into our current small model home in 2011. So 14, almost 15 years here in our current home. And as mentioned in the introduction, we started our Eden journey back in 2008. It's been a long time coming. So what makes us different? Why were we invited to speak of our philosophy of care today? We've adapted our philosophy based on multiple different models and practices. Our practice aligns with the national long-term care standards and actually goes above and beyond. So that would be what makes us special. So I'll go through our recipe in more detail here. So starting with the Eden philosophy of care. So for those who are not familiar, the Eden philosophy is a holistic philosophy focusing on the well-being of the whole person. The Eden Alternative has 10 guiding principles and focuses on 7 domains of well-being, those being identity, connectedness, security, autonomy, meaning, growth, and joy. So approximately 50% of our employees are trained as certified Eden associates. So that means that they've attended the three-day CEA training. And we were the first Eden registered home east of Saskatchewan in 2008. We currently hold a certified membership, which means we've reached a certain number of goals when it comes to completing practices and training our employees. So some of the practices that we've implemented have including evolving our language. So you may notice that we don't use the traditional institutional language. We'll be using houses instead of units, care partners instead of staff, so on and so forth. We've removed lots of institutional trappings, such as med carts and some of those environmental noises that contribute to an institutional environment. And we focus on creating meaningful experiences for our residents and getting to yes on simple pleasures. Another approach that we follow is the palliative lens of care. So this is a framework of care and not just about end of life. It includes care planning with the goal of relief from symptoms and stress related to their diagnosis. And it helps prepare residents and families for future changes by staying informed and involved. So we practice this daily by fostering relationships with our residents and their families and including them in annual care conferences. Our small house model home is a big contributing factor to the way that we're able to provide care to our residents. So that means that we are divided into 10 houses, and each one of those houses is home to 9 residents. So as you see on this screen, I tried to blow it up as best as I could, but in each of our houses, we have 9 bedrooms. So each resident has their own private bedroom with a bathroom. And then there's also a bathing suite and a laundry room in each of the houses. The common areas include a nice big kitchen, a dining room, and an open living room. Our small house model also features separate entrances directly to the outdoors. So we actually have 11 total entrances if you count our main entrance here at Tideview. And then we're all connected from the interior from the bridge. So when families are visiting, they don't have to come through our main entrance and walk down long hallways. They can just walk in directly to the home as you would in your own home. So this really minimizes the coming and going of people, not only for visitors and families, but for the amount of staff going in and out of the houses as well. So with our small model home, this was able to contribute our journey towards a neighborhood model. So the neighborhood model is how we work within our physical space. So as you'll see on the presentation, that is an aerial view of Tideview Terrace and how it's divided into those 10 houses. And you'll see how it's kind of connected with the center bridge there in the middle. So from that, we have divided our houses into 4 different neighborhoods. I've circled them up on that screen. So 2 of our neighborhoods consist of 3 houses each, and then the 2 other consist of 2 houses each. So when we moved into our home in 2011, it really highlighted that the traditional departmental model was not serving our residents, families, and care partners as best as it could. So the traditional model really creates silos. So you have the environmental services, you have the CCAs, you have the nurses, so on and so forth. And it kind of creates an us versus them mentality. So we wanted to really support our care partners as a team and also create more consistency. So by introducing the neighborhood model, we kind of tried to defeat those silos and we bring the team together. We implemented consistent staffing, which means that when you are hired as a care partner at Tideview Terrace, you are part of a neighborhood and you're consistently staffed within that neighborhood. So if you're a CCA, you can expect that your shifts will be mainly in the houses that you are assigned to within your neighborhood. So consistency creates a better team approach because we get to know each other more, we get more comfortable with our team members, but we also get to know our residents on a deeper level. And it enables us to get to know them on a deeper level. So from those teams, each one of the neighborhoods has a neighborhood manager, myself and Ariel included. Then we have two others on our team. Our primary role is managing this multidisciplinary team and overseeing and ensuring exceptional resident care to those who live in our neighborhoods. We also all have a lead program that we're responsible for managing, and the leads kind of evolve over time given the needs of organization and healthcare environment. So as mentioned in the introduction, my lead is person-directed care and moving that along for our home. The next model that we've adapted from is hygge. So hygge is a Danish concept that focuses on creating a cozy, comfortable atmosphere and fostering feelings of contentment and well-being. So it really emphasizes those simple pleasures such as warmth, candlelight, soft lighting, good company, and just enjoying the moment. It creates a sense of sanctuary and relaxation in everyday life. So we have applied this to our common areas and even our respite room. So that's the room that it doesn't, people come and go. We don't have a permanent resident in that room. So it's hard to really define that space to make it individual to that person. We were able to apply hygge to that to make it more warm and inviting and not so cold and rigid as you'd see in an institutional model. We've also collaborated with the Hogevik in recent years. So we learned of the Hogevik, they're a dementia village in the Netherlands, who believe in the deinstitutionalization of dementia care and focusing on possibilities, not disabilities. They support traditional daily rhythms of life, and that includes household responsibilities and encouraging the residents to get out of the house and really involved within their community. So we actually visited their home in 2023, and they came to visit us here in Digby in 2025, and we're able to maintain that relationship and continue to learn from each other. Throughout all of this, we continuously apply a lens of continuous quality improvement. So that means moving from reactive to preventative measures. We hold status sheets with our teams to learn what's going on a day-to-day basis, and it enables us to help identify trends before they turn into issues, so being more preventative. This really gets the whole team involved, and it empowers them to speak up and to be valuable parts of the solution. So they're not just bringing problems to the managers or to anyone. They're really coming up with solutions and seeing how we can best suit the needs of our residents within our neighborhoods. So all that considered, how do we measure up on the traditional standards? So pulling from the Canadian Institute for Health Information data, so CAI data, nothing really significantly sets us apart. We have a slightly higher fall rate. So you'll see I did pull some graphs from their website comparing Tyview Terrace not only to Nova Scotia and Canada, but also to Ontario. So you'll see that, yes, our fall rate is a little bit higher. But then when you look at our use of restraints, it is significantly lower compared to the rest of Nova Scotia. So for the environment that we're in. Why is that? We do have a culture of risk acceptance. So we promote independence, we focus on possibilities and getting to yes. So safety is important, but we recognize that surplus safety exists and we try to steer away from it. So what does this look like on a daily basis? We've accompanied a resident to get a tattoo. We have brought residents canoeing. We go fishing off the wharf, anything that they really enjoy and find meaning in. We also empower residents to make informed decisions and supporting those decisions. So when it comes to their care, they are really the drivers and leaders of that. And that really, it's how we continue on with our culture of risk acceptance. So seeing that on the things that we slightly defer from when looking at the CAI data, it's no surprise that we may have a little bit more falls and things like that. So what should we be measuring if we kind of don't look any different when you look at those standard data points? When we talk about satisfaction surveys, they are required through licensing that all homes provide an annual satisfaction survey, but the survey itself is not standardized. So that means that we're not able to really compare apples to apples when we look at other homes. So I'd argue that most would probably show positive results as they are most likely measuring satisfaction of basic needs. So I'm sure we're all familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So when we're asking our residents, are you fed? Are you hydrated? Do you feel safe? And do you get rest? They most likely all say yes. So that means that, yes, they got a good satisfaction survey. But what should we be measuring? Quality of life does not measure the same standards as those basic needs. So saying that, those basic needs are satisfied does not directly translate to a good quality of life. If we talk about quality of life and citizenship and how they are reciprocal, we can then see that having a sense of belonging really increases your quality of life. So asking those questions, like, are you satisfied with the way that you're being governed or that your community is being governed? Are you involved? Does your environment reflect you and your values? Are you actively working towards your goals? So when we're talking more about quality of life and citizenship, what should we be measuring? So us at TideView, we use tools from the Eden Alternative to collect resident satisfaction data and use the same metrics to measure family and employee satisfaction as well. So the reason why we would use the same metrics for our families and employees is because they are citizens of the same community and they're contributing to the same community. So their satisfaction matters. So we have two different surveys that we use. One is a warmth survey, and that really measures the climate temperature of our community. So is it warm and fuzzy, or is it kind of cold and frosty? And it helps us identify what's contributing to this climate. And it may also highlight if our perceived climate is actually the reality. So us as employees, as management, we may think that it's a really warm and inviting community for our families to enter, but the data may show from our families that they don't feel welcome, or they're, they don't know the names of all the care partners for their loved ones and things like that. So that's on the warmth survey. The other tool that we use is the Wellbeing survey. So the Wellbeing survey measures satisfaction based on the 7 domains of well-being as defined by the Eden Alternative. So we use this information to drive our daily work and to set strategic plans and goals for our organization. So up on the screen, I have provided an example of the survey results for our 2025 well-being survey. So we do go back and forth. So one year we do well-being, and then the opposite, we'll do the warmth survey. So we do share these results community-wide with our residents, with our families, with our employees, and we highlight what's going well, what can be improved, and what our opportunities for growth are. So kind of what our action items are based on this. So if we zoom in on our resident results for the well-being survey, on the left-hand side, you'll see that we offer a quick look at our strengths and weaknesses and pulling directly from questions being asked on the survey. So with the green smiley face, one of our strengths is saying our residents claim that they do trust their caregivers and that they feel a connection with many people here. Going down, kind of a neutral feeling when asked if their opinion counts and if people ask before they enter their room. And something that we kind of scored low on, there was mostly a dissatisfaction when asked, I have the chance to learn new things. So our residents claim not to have, or report not to have, opportunities for learning new things. So on the right-hand side, that's where you'll see that we examine the change in satisfaction rate from the previous survey. So that would be comparing to the 2023 results of our well-being survey. So you'll see that the green arrow pointing up means that we're on an upwards trend when you break it down within the domains of well-being. And then we identify opportunities for growth, which then leads into action items for our teams. So these opportunities for actions were formed by taking a critical look at the results and really transposing them onto our daily rhythms with resident input. So we brought the kind of the raw data to our quality and risk committee, which does include a resident on that committee. And we talked about, what could this mean in our daily lives? And that's where we're able to identify these opportunities. So what can our residents learn more about? And they talked about seeing our staff participating in the CEA training, which is a certified Eden associate training, and how they would like to be included in that. So that's definitely an opportunity. Respecting their personal space. They say there's a neutral feeling when asked, if people ask before entering their room. So that's definitely something that we have to look into. And then offering more house meetings with residents. So in speaking with residents, we did identify, yes, we have resident council and all these opportunities, but for those who choose not to attend those, that they want to stay in their home for various reasons, they may not get that equal opportunity. So how can we make sure that we're offering that to them as well? So putting all of this into daily practice, kind of what does it look like? So it looks like person-directed living. Person-directed living is when the resident's daily rhythm really navigates the way we do our work. So for example, CCA's daily tasks are not regimented by time. So we don't say you have to have all your residents up by 7 o'clock and breakfast on the table by 7:30, and all the baths must be done in the morning. We really empower our teams to rearrange the way they do their work to meet the residents' needs. When we talk about moving towards citizenship, that means including the residents within our systems. So not just empowering residents to make choices for their everyday routines, but being the problem solvers and being involved in every step of the way. So we really want to see them come together as a household and set the stage for what a daily rhythm looks like for them. So when we talk about involving residents in decision making, we kind of lean ourselves onto principle number 8 from the Eden Alternative. So that reads, decision making must involve those most impacted by the decision. Empowerment activates choice, autonomy, and influence. So some examples of the ways that we do that here at Tideview. The residents have impact on their environment. So not only about what goes into their room or the way that we decorate the houses, but really how we as guests in their house, in their homes, how we act when we enter their homes. We make sure that we acknowledge them as we enter, if they're sitting in the kitchen or the living room. The way that we speak, our tone of voice. There are some houses who may appreciate, the laughter and the energy that we bring, and others may appreciate more of a quiet environment. So we really have to acknowledge that and respect that. We have residents on our board of directors. So that means that they are definitely a part of the system. They have influence on the way that we organize our systems. They approve our capital spending. They determine strategic direction. And if you do follow us on LinkedIn, you may see that our dear administrator has announced her retirement. So that means that our board of directors is currently going through the process of choosing a new administrator. And seeing that we have residents on our board, that means that they will be involved in choosing our next administrator. So heavily, heavily involved in all directions. And we also involve our residents in recreation planning. So it's not just about asking them what their wish list of activities they would like to see on the calendar, but they're really the ones who are determining our recreation programmers' schedules. We have weekend coverage, we have evening coverage. It's not just 9 to 5. And we make sure that we offer activities that are meaningful to them. So when they say that they want to go fishing off the wharf, we find a way to make it happen. We've been, ice skating, we do lounge nights, we go up to the tavern to play pool, kind of whatever they want to do, we support that. So sometimes when we talk about the way that our residents are involved, we do get the pushback that they may say, well, that's because you have a certain resident population. But we just want to clarify that we don't handpick our residents. We receive them through departments of seniors and long-term care, just like everyone else. But when they move into our home, we focus on their abilities and their goals. So I will share some stories of a couple of our residents here at Tideview, and we have received consent to share their stories because we are really firm on the nothing about us without us. So I invite you to meet Shireen. When Shireen was introduced to our community, we got the typical introduction, 84-year-old female living with dementia. She ambulates independently with a two-wheel walker, and she has a regular texture diet. So we're like, okay, great. But we really want to get to know Shireen. So we quickly learned that she liked to keep busy. She was an aircraft engineer out west. She retired to Nova Scotia and took up hairdressing in her retirement. And then when she retired from hairdressing, she started wintering in Jamaica with her husband and ended up becoming a tour guide there. And then eventually retired a third time from that. So we knew that she liked to be involved in things. And she told us, whatever you have going on, sign me up. I'm ready to go. So she quickly was a regular at all of our recreation activities. She attended everything, and yet she was still pacing the halls back and forth every morning looking for something to do. So we started giving her some jobs to bring her meaning, watering the plants in the hallways, looking to see if the paper was there and grabbing it from outside. She would help at meal times in her house, handing out water, helping bring plates back to the sink. So yeah, just looking to get involved in all kinds of different ways. So one day we had an idea of creating a new activity for our recreation calendar. And the idea was to create a Friday afternoon coffee shop. So the purpose of this coffee shop activity was not only to bring residents together in a more casual space, because they were saying, since our footprint is so large, sometimes they don't realize who the other people living in their community are. And they see them at bingo or at church, but they don't have the opportunity to chat because it's a rush in and then you do the activity and then it's a rush out. So they just wanted time to kind of slow down and to connect and have that, that hygge atmosphere and to really be cozy. So we brought the idea to Shireen and we said, hey, do you want to help us with this coffee shop? And she said, no. She said, if I'm going to be involved in this, I want to run the whole coffee shop. So we said, okay. So we talked about what that would look like. We got her set up with a Keurig because that's what she was comfortable with. She had one in the house already. She knew how to use it. So we started with one and now we're at 3 Keurigs and she has a request for a plumbed in coffee system to keep it going. So she truly runs the show. She lets us know what she needs and we gathered the resources to make it happen. So it's never no, but it's really how we can get to yes. So Shireen created her community around that, and it really identified her here as a citizen of Tideview. So something I forgot to mention about Shireen was that she was only supposed to be a temporary resident of Tideview. So she actually came to us while waiting for an opportunity to move to a home closer to family elsewhere in the province. And sometime after she moved in here, that opportunity did come. She got the offer to move closer to her family, and she declined. She chose to stay in Digby, not only because she liked the community, but she found her community here at Tideview. She created these connections, and she was genuinely concerned about who would run coffee shop if she wasn't here. So we're happy to have her here. I would now like to introduce you to Alan. So when Alan was introduced to us, he was a 55-year-old male, diagnosis of spina bifida, able to self-propel in his wheelchair and independent of transfers, regular diet, all those things that we typically get. So we got to know Alan and we found out that he studied journalism in college and he really enjoyed photography. So we started making these connections about how we can get Alan involved. Talking to the recreation team, seeing that he is not our typical resident of long-term care, seeing that he is definitely a younger adult within our population. The typical activities on our recreation calendar didn't really speak to him. So instead, we thought, hey, we often find ourselves wishing that we could capture the moment through photos, but it always gets overlooked. So if he enjoys photography, let's set that up. So Tyview invested in a camera, and we asked Alan if he wanted to be our resident photographer, and he agreed. So although Alan doesn't really find meaning in the large group activities or anything that's going on around here, he will participate to fulfill his duty as a photographer, and we're so thankful to him for that. So other things about Alan, he is a music lover. So when you go into his room, you'll see that he has a drum kit in the corner, and he does pair up with some of our musical volunteers at lounge night and does a little jam session for the rest of our residents. He also shares his room with his cat named Jones. So you'll find her, roaming around the house, going up and down the halls, or cuddling up to anyone who'll give her treats. So Jones has become part of our community as well. So Alan, he obviously wanted to get more involved. He recognized the importance of our philosophy of care, and he really is a true advocate for all persons living in long-term care. So he's the president of our resident council, and he facilitates conversations with all the other residents about things they'd like to see improved, and he keeps them connected with the rest of the community. He's also vice chair of our board of directors. So he is one of the residents who does have direct influence on the governance and the strategic planning of our community here at Tyview. So that's a couple of our residents. What about our families? So our family members do become citizens of our community as well. So we have partners whose loved ones are living here at Tyview, and they become daily visits. They enjoy meals with us. We know them by name. They know us by name. They really become part of that household as well. They make connections with other residents, and they attend music. They play cards with everyone. They come down on Friday afternoon for coffee shop. And we even have some families who have maintained connections even after their loved ones have left us. So we have a really good example of a family who were really involved while their mother was living here. And after she passed, they just couldn't kind of shake it. They said, we're grieving the loss of our mother, but we also don't want to grieve the loss of the community that we created here at Tyview. So they had strong relationships with other residents that they maintained. They kept visiting regularly. And we do have some of them who ended up signing up as volunteers, and they are now regular members of our community. We see them here on a weekly basis. So what about our staff? Because they are also a very important part of this community. So burnout, stress, and turnover are still relevant here for our staff population, but their mindset is really different. So our care partners, they're not really stressed about completing their daily tasks. They know that we trust them to organize their work and that they'll get it done. The things that they're stressed about is not having enough time to spend meaningful time with our residents. They'll say, oh, I was able to get Mrs. Smith up, but I wasn't able to curl her hair and set it as she would typically like. And that's what really bothers them. We do growth plans instead of performance appraisals, and we do that to help us determine what is meaningful in their work, and we empower them to find simple pleasures within their daily workflow. So an example of that would be from our support service team. So when we moved into our small model home, we had 6 support staff out in the houses. So 6 of them were distributed within the 10 houses, and they were helping with housekeeping and really maintaining all the dietary aspects. So making sure that the kitchens are stocked and that meals get done up in the houses. On top of those 6 support staff out in the houses, we had 5 in our central kitchen. So from our growth plans, it was identified that those working in the kitchen, they really felt disconnected to the residents, and they wanted the opportunity to provide better, more meaningful care. And they came up with the solution that they needed to be directly connected with the residents. They wanted to be out in the houses. So we as an organization, we listened to that, and we're able to kind of reorganize the way they do their work. And now we have 10 support service workers out in the houses. So that means that we actually have 1 per house supporting those daily housekeeping, maintaining all the dietary, making sure that the kitchen is stocked and they're in charge of all the meals. And then we keep 1 in the central kitchen just to kind of keep that system going as well. So it's important to note that we're not funded differently. We're funded with the same formula as everyone else, and it doesn't cost anything more. So we just distribute our team in the way that best supports our residents' needs. So we take that same funding envelope and we just get a little bit creative with it. So that really attracts a community of like-minded people. Our retention, our people who've been here for 15, 20, 40 years, they really have a passion for what they do, and it shows. So an example is that we have an RN whose passion is gardening, and she's empowered to share her passion with the residents here at Tyview. So every year, she's the one who coordinates the garden in her neighborhood courtyard, and she engages the residents every step of the way. She has gotten pushback from her union, claiming that it isn't part of her scope of work, but she really stands firm that she's still fulfilling her duties and she's not willing to let go of the thing that fills her cup. So us, allowing her, empowering her to do that really contributes to her retention and her quality of life here at Tyview as an employee. So I keep referring to our community and our citizens and finding purpose and connection. And that really is what the citizenship paradigm is. Excuse me. So we have committed to an intentional effort to maintain person-directed mindset. We challenge ourselves daily to include the residents in everything that we do. So looking up on this continuum of person-directedness, we found ourselves well established in the person-directed care aspect. We thought that was the goal. We thought, yeah, we made it. This is what we've been striving for. But we would get feedback from our peers and our collaborators that there was this feeling that no one could quite describe. They come visit our home and they're like, there's something, but I can't quite put my finger on it. We couldn't put into words what we were doing. The way that everyone was being heard and seen, and they found a sense of belonging, it definitely is person-directed, but a little step further. So we have identified that step further is citizenship, that we've created a community that everyone plays a role within, and they do have an influence of what's going on. And it's not limited to our residents. It includes our families, our staff care partners, our volunteers, anyone and everyone who comes through these doors. We strive to make them citizens of Tyview. So what's next on our journey towards citizenship? It's a never-ending journey. We know we'll never be perfect. So some of our goals are to create a secure property versus a secure home. So that means that we want to continue to remove barriers and really empower the residents to claim those spaces. So I talked about the courtyards a little bit earlier, but those are behind a locked door. So instead of having to ask permission for the outdoors, we really wanted to empower our residents to be able to make those decisions as they do for everything else. We would also like to open a grocery store and decentralize meals and laundry and bring them back to the houses. So this would empower our residents to own responsibility in the household chores. And it would also remove the logistical barriers to decision making. So when it comes to our menus, for example, we do value our residents' influence on that. But because we have a central kitchen, it means that we have to value 90 residents' value on that. So if we would be able to decentralize that and bring it to the houses, it would only be 9 residents kind of having influence on their own menu, and each of the 10 houses could do it to respond for their own needs. We also want to continue our journey of a culture of risk acceptance. So we focus on our residents' abilities. We want to remove surplus safety and empower our citizens to advance their goals and to focus on their growth. So we want them to learn. We want them to gain momentum when they move into here. And finally, we do want to create a Tyview model that captures how we live and work. And we want to support other homes on their journey along the continuum of person-directed care. So we have learned a lot over the years, and we are trying to put that into words to share it to others. There will never be a perfect recipe, and no 2 recipes will ever be the same. But we do hope to inspire others to create their own community and to have their own thriving citizens within that. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I have thrown up our contact information, our emails there. Myself, Ariel, and Debra were always open to collaborating, to chatting with you. I'm sure that you all have a bunch of wonderful ideas, and we'd love to hear from you.
So thank you, Réanne. That was excellent. And I'm like Carol, I think I might want to sign up when my time comes.
We accept Ontarioites.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, right. So healthcare is a provincial responsibility, and you've mentioned some things here that I'm not sure are the same across all the provinces. But a couple of things, though. I just wanted to be clear. Your home, Tideview Terrace, is a nonprofit home. You went to the small home model in 2011. Had you had a different model at that time, an institutional type model, and then you changed it, I guess? Is that how that worked?
Yeah, do you want me to jump in? I'm the historian here.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so I joined Tideview in 2005, and it was people were living and working in a very traditional institution, units of 20 to 30 people, a locked dementia unit, so very, very traditional. And we started our Eden journey within that environment and really started looking at what was going on, what could change, what we wanted for ourselves when we had to move into care. And fortunately, we had the opportunity. The provincial government in 2007 was announcing the rebuild of a number of older facilities. And we were lucky enough to be named one of those facilities that needed to be rebuilt and replaced. And so we took those principles that we knew at the time and we built the environment that made sense to us, that spoke to this environment. At the time, there was the evolving, emerging greenhouse model in the States, and we pitched that concept to government, who were like, "Oh no, 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 we can't do that. That was too extreme." And so that's where we landed with our small house model and the 9 rooms. Which is one of the smallest footprints in all of Canada, where we really place the emphasis on this is first somebody's home, second, this is somebody's workplace. We will not have the opportunity to build this building again for another 50 plus years. So we need to really maximize that space that is considered the resident's private space. And the rest we will deal with. So that's how we got approval for the nine bedroom household.
I just wanted to say that I love the setup of the neighborhoods. I love the fact that you have separate entrances, that it looks exactly like home. I thought that was wonderful. I've got a question here about staff, and I had a few. Consistent staff, like what is your staff turnover rate? Is it low? Is it high? And are those staff in those neighborhoods or with a house?
Maybe I'll let Réanne or Ariel. I'll get Ariel to jump in on that one.
Okay.
Like most healthcare homes in the province of Nova Scotia and across Canada, we did have a higher turnover rate with the pandemic. Just like most people, we're not immune. We're still a small rural community, and it was a really hard time. But our staff turnover rate is lower than some of our other friends and colleagues that we speak to across the province. And a huge part of it is about having a consistent team. So in a neighborhood, you have a team. So it's not always necessarily a house, but it can be an entire neighborhood, depending on who you're looking at. But if you look at our support service care partners, which are those that do housekeeping, they help prepare the meals in the houses. What they do is they work in one house. So then they have the opportunity to be the most consistent person that resident is going to interact with. So if they work full time, they may spend 5 days in that one house with 9 residents. So they know them the best, they're the most well known, and they happen to be one of the most valuable people on our team. They are the eyes and ears for the rest of us and advocate for the residents. Where CCAs and nurses, they work day shifts, night shifts. They have longer stretches off because they work 12 hours. We may not see them as often, but they still work consistent in one neighborhood.
Thank you for that. So just another question, and it came from a person participating. You mentioned 3 days of training, and the question that's being raised is, do certified staff trainers train all other staff?
So the 3-day training, the Certified Eden Associate training, that comes directly from the Eden Alternative. So that is a training that they do put on. So if you're interested in that for your home, definitely reach out to that group. I think their website is edenalt.org, and they do have they are based in the United States, but they do have Eden Canada, who is based in Ontario. Don't ask me exactly where, not very far from the Niagara region. And then there's also a chapter for the Western provinces in Canada. So we are very fortunate that TiView recognizes the importance of maintaining a certified Eden associate trained staff, and that most of the trainers for that were coming from Ontario. So TiView did support 2 of their employees, one of them being myself, to undergo the intensive training to become a certified Eden educator. So from that, we're able to provide that 3-day training for our employees and for other homes around the province as well.
Thanks for that. Just an aside, what do your staff wear? Do they just wear regular clothes?
They wear regular clothes.
Okay, that's what I was looking for in your pictures. Right, that's perfect. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So going over now to while I wait for questions in the question and answer box, I'm looking at what should we measure? And I loved how you addressed what should we be measuring. And I love the fact that the surveys are all the same for staff, residents, families, and you're looking for citizenship across the spectrum, which is perfect. The question I have in my mind is the governments I know in Ontario aren't necessarily that interested in well-being. They should be, but it's not in their forms. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they're happy that people are satisfied, but they're more interested in the use of psychotropic drugs, the nutrition of residents. They're interested about falls. They're interested in, I don't know. While you and I understand quality of life is where it's at the end of our life. How do we bridge that gap? How do we make a difference in trying to get governments to kind of look at a different way of measuring things?
Debra, do you want to take that one?
Yeah,
Sorry.
if I had the answer, I'd sell that and make a mint. That is the struggle, and that is a conversation that we have with every inspector that comes through our door, that is, standing there with their checklist, and albeit they have a job to do, but their job is not to measure quality. Their job is to measure the basic the basic requirements. That is not quality per se. That is like your lowest standard that one must meet. And their job is to find those deficits. And they won't do their job well if they leave without finding something. Yeah. So we have to expect that is what's going to happen when they come into the door. But it's also then about ensuring that they hear those stories, they interact with the members of the community, the residents. And I just want to say, we call them residents because they've told us to call them residents. Elder is kind of the Eden term that's used, and our residents have said, no, don't call us elders. That is a protected word in our Canadian culture for Indigenous and First Nations. And that is, yeah, we are residents. We pay a fee to live here. And so, yeah, they're happy with that term. So we continue to use it. But it is a constant struggle. I've now worked in long-term care for 20 years, and while we have moved the needle with individuals within government, the individual bureaucrats, I can't say that we have made a significant impact at that government level in their understanding of the metrics that Réanne talked about today around what is truly quality of life versus a satisfaction with the care that you are receiving.
Yes, and sadly, that is true. Sadly, in Ontario, I think. Yes. So I love the stories about Shireen and Alan. I love the fact she runs a coffee shop. It gives her you've shown how meaningful activities, it's not just meaningful activities, it's a purpose. And it's their life purpose, and it's living. It's not getting ready for the end. So it's moving on, and I think that's wonderful. And especially with Alan being on the board and being able to help with that kind of end of things. So it's nice that Shireen decided to stay put and not move towards the family, which is great too. She found her family at Tideview Terrace. That's really what she was saying to you. I guess people are listening and they want to know, probably, what can we do now? What should we be doing? You've mentioned a whole series of steps you're taking in the future, decentralization, those kinds of things for your food and laundry and so on, which is great. That will take time, and that's good. One step at a time. What can we be doing? Because Ontario, I don't think is as far ahead as Nova Scotia when we start talking to people. Well, we have more homes, that is true, but I think you folks down in Nova Scotia seem to be marching ahead. And I don't know, you probably have a better handle on your government maybe than we do. I don't know. Do you have advice?
Nova Scotia as a whole is ahead.
Do you have advice for us? Because sometimes we really struggle with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're speaking to is that whole advocacy role.
Yes.
One of the photos of Alan was with our premier, Tim Houston, the guy with the blue shirt and the Nova Scotia emblem. That's the premier who, yep, there he is.
Oh, there he is.
Who came to visit Tideview. So, we're on first name basis with the premier. We're very close to our MLA. I mean, it helps being a small province and knowing these people. But it speaks to that principle of being well known. We build relationships when we can sit down with people and have conversations. And the tone of that conversation may be one of advocacy. And that's what we've capitalized on. And so whenever those opportunities present themselves, that is what we try to instill in our organization, whether it's resident council writing a letter to government with examples of improvements in care. We were just funded at the 4.1 hours of care, which is amazing. Apparently, it's a target that was set 20 years ago and it's finally being met. So I don't know who's amazed, but none of our residents are amazed with it. And so they'll tell government about it, and we will do what we can to support that process. Ontario has, family council as an organization. We do not. We have our local family councils within our organizations. But sometimes those really are the grassroots that will get the furthest. Social media these days is fabulous, and it's not so much the negative message because we are surrounded with negativity every day. You know, the headline, bad news, it's all around us. It's how can we celebrate the good things that are happening? And
I
that
so
gets,
agree. Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt. Totally agree, but I notice our time is done. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Réanne and to you, Debra and Ariel, for sharing with us your wonderful story at Tideview Terrace. And I hope people will look at the video when it comes up on YouTube. And now I'd like to turn things over to Taeyun.
Mm.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Thank you once again, of course, Deborah, Rayanne, and Ariel for being with us today to share your expertise and your story. It is such a pleasure to be able to hear about experiences from, across the country. So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody for being present today, being so engaging with your questions. FCO and CARP have collaborated all year on different topics, and it's been such a pleasure to bring these themes and subjects to our audience in the long-term care sector. So please look forward to 2026. We have a lot of events coming up as well. Continuing our collaboration together. So really looking forward to it. And as Margaret mentioned, this webinar has been recorded, so it will be available on Family Councils Ontario YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed already, I encourage you to subscribe to our weekly e-bulletin, which is where we share whenever we have new resources. So thank you so much, everybody, for being present. And I wish you a good rest of the day and happy holidays. Goodbye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.